Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth 148 podcast. We'd like to thank you for joining us after a short break that we had there. My name is Billy Hamilton. I am the current Worshipful Master of Fort Worth 148.
I am Gabriel Jagush, and I am the current Senior Warden of Fort Worth Lodge.
I am Evve Kuykendall, and I am the current Junior Deacon for Fort Worth 148.
And we have two special guests today.
Go ahead, Chicky.
And you need some of my titles?
Yeah, whichever ones you're comfortable giving us.
Oh, okay. A past Grand Commander of the Knights Templar, I hold the Martinus degrees all the way to and beyond. I have been I don't want to say baptized. I've been made a bishop of a sort, and so all these things come into play, and they're all related. And you know, it's so exciting. I've got a chance to talk about this. It's the first time I've talked about this in a long time, and it's exciting. You know. Yeah, I participate in a lot of stuff, and it never ends. And God, I don't want it to end. And I'm getting older now, and it's a bit frustrating, especially with this virus that we got going. It doesn't give me a chance to get out, and I always enjoyed going to the different Masonic bodies or places to give a lecture of a sort and talk and be able to stand before the audience and talk to them and feel them and be able to feel the excitement and the willingness and them observing and wanting to know. And as much as they wanted to know, I wanted to give them. And as much as I could give, I always gave, and I still will until the day I die. So anyway, that's Chick. That's what I do. And I hope that's enough introduction.
That was a longie.
Unless you want me to keep on going. Like I said.
I'd like to get in there too.
Yeah, Tabatha, we'd be remiss if we didn't give you an opportunity.
Well, I told you about
Roger Big Mouth.
Roger Big Mouth.
This is what we lovingly call him. Well, my name is Sandra Tabatha Circero. I am currently the greatly honored Cancellaria of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and I'm also the current Supreme Magus and Imperatrix of the Societas Rosicruciana in America. So that's about all I can handle, and that's enough.
Gotta know your cable toe. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I hang on with dear life.
Yep.
All right. Well,
so,
yeah,
we're glad to be here. So.
Well, and we're honored to have you both. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So before we get into kind of the actual interview, one of the things that we usually do on the podcast is have like a little discussion question to kind of whet our appetites, as it were. And this episode's discussion question is from user Gaylock 1917 in the Freemasonry subreddit. And his question is, I've been a practitioner of ceremonial magic for a while now. How would that fit into the system of Freemasonry? Is it all just simply allegory, or will I find something better there? And so open field on the comments. I guess, Billy, you want to give your take first and see where everyone else has their opinion?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much I can talk about this because I've read about ceremonial magic for, since the 90s, but I never really got into the practical aspect until recently.
Mm.
So, I mean, it seems like they're very complementary in that one enhances the other and gives a greater appreciation. But for this, I feel like I should defer to those who are more experienced in such things.
You want to take that, Chick?
We're comparing it to masonry.
Masonry and ceremonial magic.
Well, one of the reasons I got involved in masonry was because of the magic. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Bob Gilbert, who is a historian. He's quite well known. And he influenced me. I had been studying magic for probably 20 years at that particular time, and he wanted me to get involved in masonry so I could get a better grip on the subject matter. He thought the masonry, by studying masonry, I would be able to understand my studying of the magic as well a little better, and I couldn't quite understand. So I got involved and got involved in the SRIA, which is the Society of Rosicrucians in Anglia. And of course, while getting involved with the society, I had access now to Westcott's library. So it was one of those convenient things. So Bob had a plan, and I had to get initiated and get to a point where people would say, "Come on, Chick, I'm going to take you over to Westcott's library, and we're going to perform this particular initiation." And there were some initiations that I went through. I won't discuss them in public, but very important and exciting. And it gave me that opportunity. It opened up another chapter in my life. So it gave me the ability to reach back in time and pick up the books that were so necessary to fill in the blanks that I was already studying in the Golden Dawn. Because the Golden Dawn is nothing but a starting point. It's the beginning, and you study the Golden Dawn, and it brings you to a certain point in your studies, and then there's more, and there's another layer of books that you have to read and get involved in, and this gave me that opportunity of that other layer of books. So of course I didn't complain. I was quite excited, and I did whatever initiations I was asked to do, and they initiated me into some interesting stuff that then gave me the opportunity to read certain books and actually touch and handle things that probably hadn't been handled for many, many, many years. And needless to say, it was exciting. I Something I'll never forget. Let's put it that way. And it excited me to the point where it made me a better magician, a better mason, a better everything. Because it opened up these other avenues of information that I hadn't seen before. So, thanks to Bob, I became a Mason. And actually, I became a musician in the 60s, and I became a Mason in the 90s. So you see, there's quite a difference in time. And then I suddenly see, it was so interesting, because here I am teaching. I love to teach, by the way. It's probably obvious, because I like to talk. But here I was inside the studies of magic, the way it was written, the way it was, the way for what it was, for what it really meant, and for all the teachings and studies and so forth and so on. And I don't want to get into all that, but anyway, it was quite exciting. And all of a sudden, I started to see the comparison, and I started to see the difference, the way the two things mesh together. It's all one part of thinking. To be that one person is to know or to study. It's not enough just to study the one. You need to study it all, and then put it together. And when you start putting it together is the exciting part, because then you start to see the reality that there's a meaning to it. It's a reality. Anyway, I'm probably talking too much again. Okay, let's go.
This is a talk show.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
It is a talk show. I'd just like to add that when Chick became a Mason, I'm gonna get my 2 bits in here too. When Chick became a Mason in the 90s, it was exciting because he suddenly realized also that there was, well, we knew it at the time, just having studied the Golden Dawn system, that it was based on the Masonic structuring, because the founders of the Golden Dawn had been high-grade Masons. And so we knew theoretically that it was based on Masonry, but until Chick got into the Masons, and I correspondingly got into the Eastern Star, which was the Masonic appended body that I could experience a form of Mason-like. John Michael Greer referred to it in his Inside the Magical Lodge as the Western toolkit of the Masonic, or the lodge system. And it's very important because there's just so many things that are built into the Golden Dawn system that come from Masonry. The knocks, the grips, the whole setup of the lodge, the speeches, it's a lot of it mirrors it. And just being able to experience the Masonry, I know has it's helped in me when I got involved in the Eastern Star. It helped me become a better ritualist, because Masons excel at ritual, and I think it's important to experience both, or in my case, as near as you can get. So,
It was very good, Ted.
thank you.
That's great to see how the 2 different families kind of play together in terms of complementary action. So we're gonna ask y'all some softball personal questions, right? One of the questions that we always ask our guests is what what they're like outside of the Masonic lens, because we're treating this as the wider tradition, and we've got the 2 of y'all here. Can you tell us about yourselves outside of the esoteric lens? What do y'all do as mundane human beings?
We go to the flea market.
No, actually, in reality, we have a shop on the internet where we make the implements that the people use in the Golden Dawn studies. It's something that I designed when I first started masonry, not masonry, Golden Dawn, there wasn't a Golden Dawn. The last Golden Dawn temple was in the Warrior, which was in Australia, and that closed down in 1977. And in 1977, I had opened my temple. So it was almost like very coincidental. I didn't know about them. They didn't know about me. It was just something that happened. And I got to get to understand when I started building the temple, I had to build it from scratch, and the only thing I had was the blue Golden Dawn book. I don't know how many are familiar with it, but there's not very much in it. It's just a couple pages of pictures and all this theoretical information spewed out all over from one page to the next. I don't know how else to explain that. And I took it and I started building implements and designing Golden Dawn. So most of the stuff you see on the market today, Golden Dawn cups and wands and the Phoenix wand and all those wands and stuff like that, basically I had designed, and I created them. And so as long as I was creating them and making them, I put a little price on them, and I start to make a few bucks with it, which helped out and paid for our other house, which we keep for our guests. And it helped out, for the Golden Dawn, because ours is a nonprofit organization, and we don't charge for any. We don't have dues like in masonry. We just I pay for it. We pay for it. So it's a little bit different that way. It's done freely. It's done from the heart, and it can get expensive. That's all I could say, guys.
Yeah.
So well,
We also refer to him as the king of tangents.
Yeah.
anyway,
But I want you
I'm
to
sure.
tell
I'm sure
me-
that's a card in some deck somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the
King of
reformed tarot
Tangents.
deck, King of Tangents.
Yes,
Why don't you
I'm sure
tell
it's somewhere.
Since they were asking about things besides Golden Dawn, why don't you tell them about your musical past? I'm sure that would they want to know more about us as people outside of Golden Dawn. So why don't you tell them about your past and the bands and all that stuff?
well,
That'd be fun.
growing up in my later years in high school, I became a pretty decent saxophone player.
Okay.
And I always had a band, and we played everywhere. And I played with just about everybody you could think of. Don't forget now, this is the 60s.
Yeah.
So there was Sammy Davis Jr. There was
George Benson,
George Benson. What's his face?
Bill Haley.
Bill Haley and the Comets.
Who else did you play with?
God, I worked with just about every.
What is his name? Johnny Lee Hooker.
John Lee Hooker, yeah.
Yeah,
Others
those
I
are some
can't
big
think.
names.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. A lot of it was. I lived in Buffalo, New York, and we won't pay attention to that. It's round 2.
Okay, Buffalo, New York.
So Buffalo, New York is quite well known for its jazz. Well, we had a club there called the Town Casino, And this town casino, a fellow by the name of Harry Altman, I don't know if he's with us anymore, but he hired all these big Vegas acts and brought them to the town casino. And I got to meet them all and work with them all, and it was a shared dressing room with them. Professor Aaron Corey. Oh God, it was really quite interesting in those days. Um, and we played then Sunday afternoon for all the kids, and then we'd play at night for all the older people. So and we'd play with the different groups, and I played with the Harry James, and who else did I?
The OJs,
The OJs. Oh God.
the Fenderman.
Yeah, there was the Fenderman. Yeah, but it was very interesting in those days because I don't know if you've ever been in like a Vegas type nightclub, but that's what this was like. And I was in my early 20s, so it was really interesting, very interesting. So needless to say,
He had a good time.
Yeah, some of
It
those
sounds
were,
like it.
those were some pretty big names too. But yeah, that's kind of cool.
It is.
so
He-
anyway, I got a bunch of records I made and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but once in a while,
Some of them are online, actually. There's, I think,
Yeah.
a link. There's a couple links on our Facebook pages to old 45 records on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
You can find them. You can find them and listen to them.
yeah. Anyway, that was the days of music, but it was really very interesting, and I found it an easy crossover from music to magic. Music had a way of using the creative part of you. So you would play and you'd hear the sounds and you'd bring it and it would become very magical. And when I would go to the magic, I could hear the music. I could hear the sounds. The magic has sound. It vibrates, and the colors the colors have vibration. The sounds have everything. It vibrates, and there's where your magic becomes real, when you start to hear it and feel it. So it was all part of my getting more involved in magic, because the music, it inspired me. It was just another step.
That's cool. Just a very natural progression.
Yeah, it was a
really neat.
progression.
That's
It
really
was. It
cool.
really was.
And besides that, we go to flea markets and take care of cats. So that's what we do in our mundane lives.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to the going to flea markets bit. My wife and I
miss them.
often
I
try
can't
and
go
find-
right now.
Yeah.
I can't go right now. They
And
don't
they
have
sold
any.
our best flea market.
Oh, they're closing down with the virus.
Oh,
And
man.
Favorites.
and they're gonna build houses.
Yeah, well,
Hmm.
I guess somebody has to have a house too. But
Yeah.
anyway,
All right. Well, and I can definitely see how music can lead to this sense of magic, because as a musician, I also played in my teens and 20s, and there's a point when you're on stage where you hit this almost like a meditative trance when
Oh, yeah.
you're in the zone.
Absolutely. You are in a world. It's a different world, and you feel the people around you. Uh, you could see them, and the rhythm, the music itself, and they're moving along with it, and they're spacing out, I would call it, and they're excited. It's magic. It is magic. So, yes, I'm glad you could experience it. I always said, I wish every person in the world could experience that. play some kind of an instrument and then do magic.
Yeah, it's something I noticed when, also being a musician. One of the things that happens every once in a while where you get really into the zone and you're playing, and when I notice it most is when I'm playing quietly, something, like a longer piece that's quiet and calm and kind of winds you into it. And then when the piece finishes or when you stop playing, there's this big void or this emptiness that's
Right.
left behind when you stop playing the music, and you go, where did that feeling go? I didn't realize I was feeling something, but then when I stopped, I realized I don't feel whatever I was feeling anymore. And I think that's maybe that magical sensation of music, right?
Oh,
Where
God, yes.
you get entranced, and then it ends, and only once it ends you realize what you had.
I miss it, and I made the mistake of quitting. I don't know why I did, but I did.
So then, before we kind of wade deeper into questions, one of the things that we'll kind of establish as a ground level is, obviously, when it comes to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, we can consider y'all experts. So, podcast hosts, describe your familiarity in your own words with the magical system known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Let's see, I wrote some notes down here.
Billy, you go first.
Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, I've read about the Golden Dawn since the 90s. I always wanted to find a group, and kind of fell into that trap of that you had to have like an authentic lineage before you could really start exploring it. And it's only been recently when I've realized, self-initiation, especially after reading like your book, The Essential Golden Dawn. As I was reading that self-initiation can be almost, can be just as valid, So I'm definitely experienced with a lot of the theoreticals behind it, not necessarily experienced with the practical application of it.
And then I'd say that I'm tangentially familiar with the Golden Dawn. I'm familiar with a lot of its history. I'm familiar with some of the Masonic figures that were involved with it, just because as a Mason, you get interested in, like, who is this dude and what did he do, and what is that group that he got involved in and what are they about? So I'm familiar a little bit with the general concepts of Western esotericism that Golden Dawn deals with, but really not familiar with the specifics behind. Evve, what about you?
I would probably say that I'm in the same boat as Gabe as it relates to my familiarity with the Golden Dawn. I've read a lot about the Western esoteric tradition and some of the precepts that underpin the Golden Dawn, but I wouldn't say that I am. I would definitely not be able to talk about it in a way that seemed adept or at least conversational. I would be asking a lot of questions, and I think that that's what interests me about this particular this subject matter in the podcast, because I think that there are a lot of people out there in Freemasonry, specifically, who are in our audience, that probably have many of the same questions that I would probably have as somebody who is just very limitedly associated with the Golden Dawn and some of the other esoteric orders that are affiliated in either directly or loosely with Freemasonry.
So, you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, to start with, as some of you know, having read some of the history, the Golden Dawn was founded by a group of Freemasons, Rosicrucians, they're high-grade Masons, Rosicrucians. They're also into Theosophy, Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society at that time. And this was around the 1880s. And there, of course, these high-grade Masons, especially Dr. William Wynne Westcott, they wanted some they were studying the esoteric traditions, the sciences, what they call the arcane sciences, the Hermetic sciences, having to do with Kabbalah, alchemy, spiritual alchemy, astrology, divination, especially tarot, all of what's known as the Hermetic sciences. And they were really they were involved in a lot of different organizations at the time, but they wanted to found a group that was not just a study group, not just where you would read about certain esoteric subjects, but actually perform rituals of what became known as magic or theurgy, which is another word for God working. And so they, especially Westcott, designed the Golden Dawn to be a initiatory group, accepting both men and women on equal basis, where it wasn't just theory, it was practice. But it was divided and structured along the same lines as Masonry and the Rosicrucians, the SRIA in England. But what they call the outer court, was the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was set up where the beginning students would study the language, the alphabet, the symbolism, and the principles of the Hermetic sciences. It's kind of going to school and learning all of your ABCs of esotericism. So that was all done in the outer order of the Golden Dawn. There was a few more intensive ritual work and meditations given out, but basically the outer order was to learn the basics, and also to introspectively look at the different parts of your own inner makeup, your own spiritual and psychological makeup, and labeling these as the Greek philosophers would label the 4 elements. So there were grades that were called the elemental grades after the grade of neophyte, where you would explore the different elemental makeups of your own psyche and how that related to the greater universe out there. And then there was also an inner court called the RRAC, the Ordo Rose Ruby et Aureae Crucis, or the Order of the Golden Cross and the Red Rose, the Ruby Rose. And this was where you took all of that knowledge that you learned in the outer order and you put it into more of a practical working. So once you'd gotten the groundings in the outer order, you were expected to perform and actually write. A large percentage of it was you had this knowledge. You were supposed to design effective rituals, effective techniques and meditations, and you were expected to be more of a practical working magician at that point, and a teacher. You were supposed to also teach the knowledge that you gained back to the outer order, to give back to those who followed you. That's it in a nutshell. It basically, the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, studied the Western sciences, or that were affiliated with esoteric knowledge of the West, mainly Kabbalah, inner alchemy, again, divination, including astrology, tarot. Tarot is a biggie because that follows Kabbalah quite a bit. And Greek philosophy, comparative religion, as far as ancient religions and how they all tie into the universal truths. That's it in a nutshell. So I hope that was helpful. He's got more. Have some more. Go ahead.
If you want to hear more. The is and isn't of the Golden Dawn. Is the Golden Dawn a religion? No. Is the Golden Dawn a fraternity? Yes. Is the Golden Dawn Christian? No, because it's not a religion. People from many different faiths can be practitioners of the Golden Dawn. Our mentor, Israel Rigardi, was Jewish. The practices of the Golden Dawn are meant to supplement, not replace a person's chosen religion, is the Golden Dawn a self-improvement program. I wouldn't describe it as if it were 12-step program for self-improvement, just as I wouldn't describe Masonry as a self-improvement program either. But the Golden Dawn, a system that uses esoteric knowledge and practices it to raise consciousness. To raise consciousness. The heart of the Golden Dawn system is often referred to as theurgy, or God working. It is summed up in the obligation of the Adeptus Minor. I further promise and swear that with the divine permission, I will from this day forward apply myself to the great work, which is to purify and exalt my spiritual nature, so that with the divine aid I may at length attain to be more than human, and thus gradually raise and unite myself to my higher and divine genius. It's not mere self-improvement so that you can be a better car salesman. It is a system for self-illumination in order to understand, communicate, and work with the divine. Work with the divine. The Golden Dawn is the Golden Dawn witchcraft. Hallelujah. This is not what we do, but the word witchcraft is fairly loaded. A loaded term, and it can mean different things to different people. Some people use the term witchcraft as a religion. Today, some neo-pagans, the term to describe their practice. Other times, the term is used to describe European folk magic. A few centuries ago, anything having to do with esoteric knowledge or knowledge that people didn't understand was considered to be witchcraft. Mathematics was once considered a form of witchcraft. Most of the sciences were considered witchcraft. A medicine woman gathering herbs for healing was considered a witch. And if you what? You want me to shut up? Is that why you're poking me? I got poked. I'm going too far. All right.
Let them ask questions.
All right. I'm preaching. All right. Go ahead, guys.
It sounds like you were on a pretty good roll there.
No, it
So-
was fantastic.
You guys have told us a little bit about, the structure of the Golden Dawn. And so, we have this first order with, 4 or 5 grades in it. We have this second order with 2 grades in it. And then we have this third order. One of the things that I've noticed about the Golden Dawn, and again, not super familiar with the specifics of the Golden Dawn, but each one has a name, and that kind of makes sense, Philosophus or Adeptus Minor, Adeptus Major, right? Kind of descriptive name. But then, in Masonry, we have Entered Apprentice, first degrees, Fellowcraft, second degree, and so forth. In the Golden Dawn, there seems to be a system where we say Adeptus Minor, 5 equals 6. Adeptus Major, 6 equals 5. And that's the grade number. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about what that grade numbering means?
Sure.
You want to go for it?
Sure.
Go for it.
When you have the tree of life, okay, picture the tree of life, and you have one is down on the bottom and it goes all the way up to 10. No, am I going the wrong way?
No, 1
no,
to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10.
It's been a rough day.
It is. And so when you say 1 equal 10, that means that your first grade is equal to the 10th grade. Okay, so it's 1 equal 10. So that's Zelator, that you're on the tree. So you're actually in 1 equal or 2 equal 8
2 9.
to equal 9. So you're in the second grade, but you're on the 9th Sephira. So if you're on 1 but you're on 10, so you're 1 equal 10, 2 equal 9, 3 equal 8, 4 equals 7, 5 equals 6. Now you're getting into the adept grades. 6 equal 5.
The first number is the step that you're taking, the initiation that you're taking, and the second number is the Sephira that you're stepping onto on the tree of life. And there's also, it's also interesting because it's not just the numbers, but there's symbols around the numbers. The first number has a circle around it, and the second number has a square around it. And I'm sure as Masons, you understand there's a saying about squaring the circle. How do you square the circle? It's kind of a mathematical impossibility, really. So it kind of points to doing what a lot of people just think is impossible, and it's also, the circle is also a spirit, the symbol of spirit, and the square is a symbol of matter. So you're joining the spiritual to the material when you're going up these grades, at least symbolically. And a lot of people would think of that as impossible or not something that they would want to try, which is the alchemical sense of the term. So it's both of those things. It's numerical and the symbolism of the square and the circle.
I like your explanation much better than mine, Ollie.
So, and there's an additional grade there too, right? Which is the first one, neophyte, which is 0 equals 0.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. It's a probationary grade, and it's not assigned to any Sephira.
It's not assigned to the tree at all.
No.
It's below the tree.
It really is a probationary period where, sometimes people get into the neophyte grade and find that it's not for them. So they rather than start going up the tree and separating out the elemental elements of your psyche, it's a good point to
get out
while you can. But before you commit, really, that's why it's probationary.
So that's a very cool process. So to think about that. So the first number being a step, 1 to 10, you've now taken your first step and you've arrived into, on Malkuth.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that first order is like your elemental grade. So when you move to, 2 equals 9, the way I was reading it in one of your books was, it's not necessarily that you're taking a step into Yesod, you're taking your step into like the air of Malkuth.
Yes.
So it's interesting that it's not, I guess, until you reach the second grade that you start progressing up in further into the tree, that those elemental grades are almost like balancing the different elements within yourself before you can progress higher into the tree. Exactly,
because Malkuth is the sphere where all the elements exist there, and it's the sphere of manifestation. So there's air of Malkuth, fire of Malkuth, and these are the actual. You're experiencing these things in this material level of the psyche. I mean, our brains and our psyches have, they are physical things that dwell within us as well. So that they happen at this. You've got to sort them out at this lowest level of, and I don't say lowest in like a judgmental way, in the most materialized level, before you can progress up the higher levels of the tree. That was one thing that Rigardi always was adamant about. He said, if you can't make it in Malkuth, don't try any farther.
So kind of touching on, if you can't make it here, don't go further.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of touching on the neophyte grade, I was talking with Billy in preparation for this episode, and he says, man, like, you got to take a look at all of the stuff that neophytes have to learn before they can progress, and the warning is, hey, if you're not dedicated to learning this kind of thing, don't go further. So with the understanding that there's a lot of material for neophytes of the Golden Dawn to learn, I guess this is kind of a superficial question, but how long does it generally take people to learn the material of the neophyte curriculum in a proficient and intelligible manner?
1 year.
about 1 year.
Yeah, you need to assimilate the material as well as not, sometimes people want to rush through. It's like, I can study all night, I can jam all this information in my head and take the test and go on. No, that's not the point.
Yeah, and then you go and you explode.
Like a rocket. No, you have to assimilate this. This is you're doing an alchemical experiment on yourself, and you don't want to like throw the butane on it and turn it up and crank it up. You want to a slow, mellow, gradual, safe level of flame, to build that vessel securely.
So, and this is something I don't think we actually had on here, but it does lead me to the question. I know a lot of the material that I've read, both from what you've written and also Rigardi, was that a person who's on this path and looking to progress in the Golden Dawn system of magic should take upon themselves therapy to help deal with it, especially as you start pulling and dealing with these archetypes of these different elemental aspects.
Yes. This is why it's good to work within a group, because it's like group therapy. We always talked about, Francis was into Reichian therapy on his own, and he was pretty good at it. But that was one of the things he always told me. He said that, Chick, you're going to meet people. They're going to go over the top, and they're not going to be able to control it, and they're going to lose it. And I used to ask him, well, what do you mean? And he would say that the work is you have to be very dedicated and balance it. And you have to balance it within your own psyche. And each psyche is different. And if you're not careful, you could go crazy. It could drive you crazy. I mean, suicidal or whatever. You have to take care of yourself because it's powerful energies you're working with. And we don't push anybody. That was one of the first things we tell everybody when they come, when they're ready to learn. You do this at your own time. You've got the rest of your life to learn this. There's no rush. Nobody's rushing you or pushing you. You take your time and break it down until you understand it completely. Otherwise, it could hurt you. Maybe I'm being too harsh.
No, no, you're not being. No, absolutely not. You have to go at it. You have to kind of be a bit of a scientist and a skeptic, but with a mystical heart. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you just Rigardi had a term for people that would just accept everything out in the astral or visions or dreams and stuff on face value. He called them cosmic foo-foos, and
he did.
A take on astral junkies is Rigardi's term was cosmic foo-foos. But you have to protect yourself against that. You have to have discretion and discrimination, and that's why we call it. It's called a hermetic science. It's not called a hermetic fantasy. I mean, you're supposed to test all these things and make sure that. And that's what's good about what Chick was saying before about why it's good to have a temple. Because it's not always easy to go and find a therapist that's gonna you tell them you're practicing esoteric works and magic, and they're going to say, well, stop that, and all your problems will go away. And so it's not always easy to find, that. So
well, the temple is like group therapy.
Yeah. People that know what you're going through because they've gone through it, and they can see if you're
experiencing it. They've experienced it, and they know what to look for, and then they can help you. It's when you're working by yourself and all of a sudden you start experiencing these weird things happening to you, and you can't explain it, and there's no one there to help you. So you fantasize, or your imagination goes wild, and before you know it, you're running down the hall screaming or something. I don't know. So it's best to work within a group or with people that have worked the system and can help you.
So obviously, going through this process of initiation and self-exploration can have some pretty dramatic effects where sometimes you uncover, maybe personal demons that you didn't know you had, right? And so this leads to the destabilization of an individual and hence the requirement for a temple. We didn't have this on the list of questions, but have y'all ever encountered a practitioner that, took the dive off the deep end and didn't realize what they were getting into?
Oh, yes.
And how did you manage that?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Well, there was one time in the middle of an initiation, the one candidate who I was watching very carefully, and he was not balanced properly, and he was really off. And I just stopped the whole initiation right in the middle of it. I said, this initiation is at an end. Take your seats. It's over with. And I told him, you go sit over in the corner and relax. And I just cut it right off.
Sometimes you have to do that.
You can't be responsible. If you see somebody, that's why it's important to be around people that have done this and have experienced it.
As another example, some people, when they start to begin to study magic, they go through, some people have what we call lust for results. It's like, they've seen all these Hollywood movies about magic, and they want all the bells and whistles, and that's what they want. They don't expect to be handed a book and say, here, study the Hebrew alphabet, and come back when you can memorize it, and what every letter means, and what the numerical and all this, what's the Kabbalah, can you tell me what a sephira is? And some people, they want they want the like fast food, and the Golden Dawn is set out to be gradual and secure. We always repeat that it's a gradual and secure system. Some people get upset that we kind of spoon feed at the very beginning, the outer order. It's still a lot of work, but some people, like I say, they want to like rock it through. And we had an instance where somebody was this is a long time ago, somebody was in the outer order grades, and we suggest that people don't read ahead. I mean, it's not, you can, obviously, because there's books out there, but if you're going to study a system, try to assimilate the knowledge that you have, and then when you feel like you've assimilated it, and we feel you've assimilated it, then we feel it's a safe enough step where you can move on gradually. This one person was in one of the outer order grades and said, I want to study Enochian magic because I've heard it's the most powerful magic ever, and I want to see stuff happen. And we warned him several times. We said, it's not a good idea. You should stick with your grade work and don't mess with that, because it is powerful, and
you're not ready for it.
And you're not ready for it at all. So but of course, people don't listen. And he was he I don't know what he did exactly, but he did some sort of Enochian working out of a book because he wanted to see the bells and whistles. And then he got to a point where he was having these episodes and he couldn't shut them off. And so we said, well, we taught you the banishing ritual, and you use these things and shut it off. But because he lurched ahead and and became unstable, and then swore off magic. It's like, oh, magic's the worst thing ever. Don't ever do it. It's terrible. It'll screw you up. And like, but if you'd have just followed what you were supposed to do and not like jump ahead for the bells and whistles and then get afraid when you see bells and whistles, it's that's one of the reasons why it's important to do do it in a gradual, secure manner, and listen to people that have had these kind of experiences with people. And, bells and whistles are not the most important thing. The most important thing is the spiritual growth, the knowledge, the spiritual growth. Later on, when you achieve a form of self-illumination, it's not going to be Hollywood. It's going to be far more gratifying than that. Far more safe and far more gratifying.
It sounds like these misadventures could be summarized with the almost cliched phrase of "be careful what you wish for," right?
Exactly.
It's people, misadventuring because of misconceptions. Exactly. So this one is kind of like a two-parter question, right? Mm-hmm. And what are some of the most common misconceptions about the Golden Dawn that non-practitioners have? Most common misconceptions.
Okay. I guess for me, it would be that the Golden Dawn is patriarchal. That we get that one a lot, especially from women. It's like, oh, men run it, and it was never set up to be patriarchal, and it isn't patriarchal. It was always designed to have men and women on an equal status. It's always especially now, it's women are in positions of authority in temples and in the order in general. Probably more so now than Victorian times, because it is the modern world. But people always think, oh, it's a man's organization, but it's not. And it's, oh, they just they're into more masculine things than feminine. No, that's not true. I mean, it runs on balance. It runs on in the Kabbalah. It's the middle pillar. It's the internal combustion machine that runs between the two opposite energies, and it's that middle path. And you can't have magical energy without the two opposing poles that are fueling this internal combustion machine we call magic.
Yeah, so, a plus and a minus.
Yeah, and everything has to be balanced. So I guess
otherwise it'll short out.
Yeah.
Where do you find that misconception regarding a patriarchal structure comes from?
Oh, I think.
Well,
go ahead.
Basically, because the thing is based around Osiris, and they get the idea that Osiris is, because he's sitting in the east, it's a man's world.
I think it's that, and they also, because a lot of men come to the Golden Dawn through Masonry, and some people, it's easier, I think, for men to find it in that route than it is for women. But it's not meant to be that way. It never was meant to be that way. It's just that as far as that goes, there's other women have other avenues that they sometimes go off and do their own thing. But men, the Golden Dawn is always met in Masonic halls throughout its history. So it was just always more accessible by its placement in Masonic halls. So, but it's never been a reality that there was just patriarchal. But I think that sometimes people see it that way, and it's unfortunate, because it is really meant to function on an equal basis. And I think people still have that misconception.
Well, the whole structure of the tree of life, you have the two pillars, a plus and a minus, and then you have the middle pillar, which balances the plus and the minus. So you have this energy, this minus energy, and you have this plus energy, and in the middle you have a pillar which is plus and minus, which draws the other two together, which gives you one. So what you're having is actually you're working with one pillar you're working with the middle pillar, which is both plus and minus. So it's not just feminine or masculine. It's both. It's both.
Exactly.
So then, developing further, what do y'all find are the most common misconceptions about Golden Dawn among practitioners? So people that are actually in the system, what is something that you find trips people up and that they've kind of built up in their head that, even though they're actually involved?
The biggest thing that I find is people get to the second order after, the first order is kind of like a 2-year study of like we were talking about before, and you're learning the ABCs and the language and the symbolism of magic. And what trips people up is if they get to the second order, they just kind of think, I've made it. I've reached the pinnacle. I can relax now. And it's like, wait a minute, it's just starting. And so many people, and I'm sure Chick can attest to this, it's, over and over, people get to that second order and they see it as this high pinnacle, and it's not. It's just a new beginning. You're supposed to be starting a new practice at that point, and
You're starting all over.
People just sit down and say, okay, did that, and it's very frustrating because that's where the work really begins, and so you shouldn't be sitting on your laurels at that point. You should be going forward, and a lot of people, they just see that as their end all, their goal, and it's, there's better goals. Keep going. The work just continues. The work continues beyond that. Chick has this illusion about the mountain.
Yeah, to me, I always quote to them, you're climbing a mountain, and you're reaching for the top of the mountain, and you finally get to the top of the mountain, and you go, I've finally reached the top of the mountain. I've made it. And then I tell them, look over your shoulder. There's another mountain. So you might have climbed one mountain, but you got another one to go. So it never ends. And then after that one, you'll have another one.
The work is continuous.
It's a lifetime's work. It could last a lifetime, and then another lifetime, and another lifetime. It just goes on and on and on. And what you see today, tomorrow you might see totally different. So,
well, I guess, and that brings up the question too. There's actually, so I know we've talked about the first order and the second order, but the second order ends with, it actually ends like the top 3 tiers, I guess, are unattainable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And is that a misconception that, do people claim to have those grades, or?
People claim them.
Yeah, they drink a lot.
Well, if you think of the tree of life, all of manifestation happens underneath the 3 supernals. There's a demarcation called the abyss, and there's a kind of it's a non-sephira called Doth, and that is a demarcation where everything above that is the supernals. It's the realm of the divine. And so in the original Golden Dawn, the spheres, these spheres were assigned to grades of the 3rd order, which are basically inner planes contacts. They were not supposed to be taken by living humans because it's a little it's not a humble position. Let's just put it that way. But it was always designed to be. If you're working with spiritual we're getting thunder here. If you're working with spiritual forces in a group,
meditation.
Yeah, meditation or whatever. They're what we call inner planes contacts, and these are basically the spiritual forces that give you information. If you're tapped into the divine, then you will get information, hopefully. And if you're working a certain system, then there are different inner planes contacts that are meant to bestow information to that particular group. And so when the Golden Dawn was founded, these grades were, even Westcott and Mathers and Woodman, they only claimed to be 7 equals 4s. You know, that was what they didn't claim to be. I'm a 10 equal 1. And nobody, you know, back in here, nobody claimed that because that was nuts. That was just crazy. That would be too egotistical. But there came a point in the order's development years later, where some of these grades, they were given honorarily. And a lot of the work of the second order, let's face it, there's a lot of work in the second order. So a lot of this work was divided up from the second order grades, like especially the Adeptus Minor grade. That the work of the Adeptus Minor was passed up the tree so that people could be claiming higher grades than actually the work was supposed to have in the beginning when it was by the original order. So there came a point where people were claiming, you know, to be a 9-2 or 8-3, and but that was not the original intention. Otherwise, why wouldn't Mathers take it? You'd think his ego would have been big enough to want to take it, but you know, these are not meant to be filled by living humans, and one of the reasons why is you're supposed to be humble as a spiritual worker. You're not supposed to claim the highest, you know, because the divine is the highest, and these grades are left for the divine, basically. And we're getting a hell of a rainstorm.
Now, a lot of Western esoteric traditions have this concept of like the unknown superiors that pass down information to the people that actually, you know, run the show. Is this kind of where we would talk about those unattainable grades coming into play, or is that like a totally separated concept?
No, it's pretty much the same thing. When I say inner planes contacts, they used to refer to them as secret chiefs. Basically, and that tradition came from Madame Blavatsky in the Theosophical Society. But you know, sometimes when you say secret chiefs, it can, you know, the conversation can go a little bit haywire. But I like to refer to them more as inner planes contacts. So if you're doing your magical work, if you're doing your exercises and your meditations, you're opening up your psyche, you're opening up your inner awareness, basically so that higher and divine energy can flow down, because you don't want to be like you want to be a clean vessel, and you don't want all the garbage in your head, you know, to pollute the divine energy, let's say it that way. So you want to be as clear a vessel as you can be. So a lot of these exercises and rituals are designed to purify yourself and to get your mind in a state that is open to the higher energy without getting it muddled, you know, as our brains can do sometimes. So when we talk about secret chiefs, I like to refer to them more as inner planes contacts, and that's, you know, if you're really hitting with the system, and you're really tuned in, that's what that's about. That's where energy that is meant for your particular group can come down. So long as that energy is it's meant for your group, and it's not like adversarial to all of your other teachings, you know, because if it was, then maybe that's not what you're hitting on there. So, but you can only get this, you know, by being a pure vessel, like anything else. You have to be a pure spiritual vessel in order to contain the spiritual.
If you're working and you're doing the magic and you're doing it in a proper manner, there's no reason in the world why you can't have an inner contact, why you can't experience that, where something will have come to you. How could you explain this without?
Well,
the information might come through just like somebody had to think of your faucet. Take for instance, somebody had to dream it up and put it down on paper, and that would be an inner plane contact, contacting you at a particular time in your life and giving you the information to draw up this faucet or a car
or an invention of
or
some kind.
invention.
The inner muse.
Inner muse. It's this is real. And this happens to everybody and anybody if they're doing everything properly and they're looking and trying, it will happen.
I just want to add that in terms of an order, like our order, we talk about inner planes contacts being, another word for that is secret chiefs. If you're an individual, then these inner plane contacts take the form of the higher self, which is your own personal inner contact. I just want to make that distinction.
It's within you. It's you have educated yourself to a point where you can think clearer, and what you're looking for can become a reality. It's that simple. Wow.
Deep thoughts.
See, sometimes the trouble with all of this is, again, if you're not doing the work and you're just hearing somebody talk to you like I am right now, you can say, what a wacko. But if you're doing the work and you're sitting back and you're meditating and it comes to you, it had to come from somewhere. The idea, it blossoms and it becomes one.
So would that be similar to what is referred to as the conversation with your holy guardian angel, and that it's also
oh boy.
We have disagreements about this.
Okay.
Holy guardian angel to me, okay, is something that Crowley developed. Okay? It's your higher self. You would be communicating with your higher self within you, not some spiritual angel out there. A holy guardian angel would be like you see an angelic figure standing over a person. That's the holy guardian angel. But when you're actually seeing a person within yourself, and it's giving you information, that's your higher self. You are studying to become one with your higher self so that you can communicate with your higher self. When you get to your holy guardian angel, then it becomes a little bit hokey.
Okay.
I wouldn't describe it that way, but
Well, it's not the same.
Well, the problem is a difference in terminology. Some people out there, it originally meant one thing, and then Crowley used it to mean the higher. He used it to mean the higher self. Mm-hmm. And some people say, "Oh, you shouldn't use this term for the other term." Well, terms, language sometimes mashes things together, and that's just the way it goes. So it depends on what context you're using it in. If you're thinking of it as a guardian spirit or a guardian angel above you, that's not a part of you, then that's one way of looking at it. The way that Crowley and Rigardi were using it was another term for the higher self. So that's just the way that language develops. And as long as, like I said, as long as you know which you mean, then it's fine.
Okay. So similar to, inspiration, right? That comes from, I guess, almost like a higher sense of self.
Yeah,
I like
the
that.
inner muse is another way of saying it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I could accept that a lot easier than holy guardian angel.
Right. Well, and I guess this takes us to Gabriel. You had a question about personal growth through ritual.
Yeah. So kind of in the sense of, the importance of ritual and all that, one of the things we've talked about is the personal growth and development that you can experience through initiatic systems like the Golden Dawn. So in y'all's opinion, is personal growth through initiatic ritual experience a psychological phenomenon, or is that an ontological? So is that just in your head, or does that occur, I guess, basically at the fiber of your being? One is obviously more dramatic than the other.
The answer is yes. It's
The answer
both.
is yes.
It's both.
I could take that. Yeah. Okay.
In fact, we wrote an article just recently that touched on this subject. It's not out in print yet, but the article is called "As Within, So Without," and it goes into length on the relationship between divinity and humanity, and how this relationship has been viewed differently over the centuries. During the Middle Ages and the Renaissance period, esoteric practitioners tended to view God and the divine out there. And part of this was because, during the Middle Ages, the church held a lot of power over people's lives, and nobody wanted to make the church angry. So they didn't want to step on any toes that they thought might have been stepped on. So it was like, okay, you have to, the church is in charge of all that, and we're just in charge of our little world over here. So that was when the period of time where the divine was seen out there, because we were, we had to go through the church in order to attract the divine or communicate with the divine, because that was the way the church wanted it, during the Middle Ages. So again, practitioners had to be very, very careful not to step on toes, like Marsilio Ficino and even scientists like Galileo. They got into trouble for doing things that the church wasn't happy about. So they had to be very careful. And then during the middle 19th century, the science of psychology came to pass, and people like Sigmund Freud came about and saw everything as it's all in your head. It's just all in your head. In fact, Sigmund Freud was an atheist, so he thought that all religion was basically a mental illness, which that's really too harsh, and going the other way. So you've got these two aspects of the pendulum. Is it all outside? Is it all in your head? And the Golden Dawn looks at, again, the middle pillar. We have the middle path. It's both, because we believe in the macrocosm and the microcosm, the greater universe, the divine universe out there, and the inner universe of the human soul, and they're connected. So the answer is yes, it's both.
God, you're smart.
I'm a smart person. At least sometimes. At times.
Well, so going back also, I wanted to touch upon your relationship with Israel Rigardi. What was it like to work with him, and how did you, I guess, come in contact with Rigardi?
That one's for you.
Oh boy. Well, actually, I was working with I was building a Golden Dawn temple. Okay. And at that particular time, there were no Golden Dawn temples in the United States or anywhere in the world. So I was wanting to build a Golden Dawn temple, but that's what I wanted to do. In the meantime, I met Grady McMurtry, who was the caliph of the OTO at that time. And he insisted I build an OTO camp. So I had an OTO camp and a Golden Dawn temple at the same time in the same building. In those days, I could afford to do that. Now, where was I going with this thing?
It was a house divided.
Oh, yeah, it was a house divided. And I had told Grady that I wanted to meet Rigardi. And anyway, to make a very long story a lot shorter, finally I got Rigardi to, Grady McMurtry to introduce me to Rigardi. So he gave me Rigardi's phone number and his address and so forth. And I started communicating with Rigardi. And then we went from there. and he encouraged me, of course, to build the Golden Dawn Temple. So consequently, I had Grady McMurtry encouraging me to build an OTO temple, and I had Rigardi encouraging me to build a Golden Dawn temple. So it was quite confusing and awfully expensive.
An interesting house. It was interesting.
Very interesting. So anyway, I got to know Rigardi very well. We spent a lot of time together. I was very fortunate. I met him near the end of his life. And so he gave me different things and helped me a little bit here and there. And I was just very fortunate. I had both Grady and Rigardi helping me at that particular time.
And they had a kind of an interesting, friendly rivalry.
They did. They did have a rivalry. They both wanted it. Well, one wanted the OTO, one wanted the Golden Dawn. So I was constantly in the middle of a conflict, which was okay with me because I knew where I was going. I wanted my Golden Dawn temple.
Rigardi was a lot of fun. He was just this little dude, you know. He was just this little dude. God, I don't know. Was he 5 foot tall? I don't even know.
No, he was 5'3", 5'4".
But he was a Scorpio, and so he had a really, really wonderful stinging sense of humor. And we went into this restaurant we were in Sedona one time hanging out. We went to Arby's. I think it was Arby's in Sedona where he lived.
Yeah.
And Sedona is a great big New Age center, and so we go in at lunchtime, and there's all these New Age people talking, you know, and light talk and interesting, fluffy stuff. And somebody was standing in front of Rigardi and talking about something cerebral. They kept coming up the word cerebral. So Rigardi was being the little trickster that he was. He said, "What are you talking about?" And then he'd mispronounce things. What's going on here? You know, like playing completely dumb. And of course they didn't know who he was. And then the woman was explaining to him, "Oh, you're talking about cerebral things and psychic powers." And
he said Pishic.
He said, "Oh, you mean the mind has Pishic powers?" He was like deliberately mispronouncing the word psychic so he could act like a complete noob, you know. And they're explaining, they were just talking away, you know, how the mind was psychic, and he'd mispronounce every word like he didn't know what they were talking about. It was fun. He was just a fun guy.
He was. We had a lot of fun with him. When I went that particular trip, I had a nightclub at the time, and I brought a case of cocktail glasses because he had just come out with his Golden Dawn book. And
the complete system.
The complete, and we were gonna, his next printing, we were gonna take the glasses and break them in the fireplace. You know how you do them, just take them and break them.
Take some champagne and break all
the glasses and drink champagne and break the glasses. Anyway, he was fun. I enjoyed him.
So how did Rigardi end up influencing y'all's esoteric journey? Because obviously, you know, you mentioned that, you know, you have McMurtry on one end and Rigardi on the other end, and you have all this influence. And obviously, you know, we know that you ended up going the Golden Dawn current. But kind of what were some of the biggest takeaways that you ended up having from this relationship with Rigardi and your journey in esotericism?
Well, I always wanted to have a Golden Dawn temple. And while I had an OTO temple, I had a Golden Dawn temple. I had two temples in the house. The dining room was OTO, and the other room, we had the neophyte hall and the parlor and the vault in the dining room, and Oh, it was an interesting house, needless to say. So I had built 2 temples in one house.
But you were initially wanting to do the Golden Dawn system, but
Yeah.
couldn't
No,
couldn't find the Golden Dawn as a living order,
there wasn't any.
and
There
so
weren't
got involved in
Golden
the
Dawn.
OTO because it was a living order that we knew about.
And
It wasn't until later that we found out Rigardi was alive.
And Grady was teaching us, the Kabbalah and all that. And actually, he was actually teaching at that time. I don't know what they do today, if they even teach, but at that time he was teaching us, and it was I got exams here that I took from him, still from way back when, and I had to get 100. If I missed one, if I got 99, I had to take the exam over.
They took that "you must be found perfect" part pretty
Yeah.
seriously.
Wow.
Honestly, if we ever get the chance, and you ever do come to Florida, please come and I will show you all this stuff and take with pictures or whatever. I hate to see it just sit there and rot.
It's not going to sit and rot. Not going to sit and rot.
But I mean, it's fun. It was fun.
But for me, I was always much more attracted to the Golden Dawn, even though I was involved in the OTO as well, because I didn't know there was another Golden Dawn. The OTO was what I found first, and but I had been looking for the Golden Dawn because I bought the Golden Dawn book, and everybody said, well, the Golden Dawn's not around, the OTO's the nearest thing, so join that. So I did. I wanted to see what it was about. But my first love was always the Golden Dawn, and once we got in touch with Rigardi, then all the avenues opened up, and Rigardi was just one of our friends described magic as a graceful synchronicity that lines things up where they're in the right place at the right time at the right, for the right insight. And that's every step of my path anyway, just meeting Chic and meeting Rigardi, every step along the way was defined by graceful synchronicity with events that should not have happened. and so I credit Rigardi with that, having that influence, because the graceful synchronicity was there when Chic needed it, and it was there when I met Chic, and then when we both went out and I got to meet Rigardi, it was there. Rigardi passed away 10 days after after we had left. So one of those graceful synchronicities was a little voice in my head, and I kind of pride myself on being one of those scientific skeptics. It's like, oh, it's a voice in your head, it's just your head. But this, I'm a double Taurus, so I'm kind of a skeptic in that way. But I have to be proven to some extent that things are real. But I got to stay with him for 2 weeks, and then he was gone, and that was just devastating. It was, for me especially, having gone through that, and then he was gone. It was very devastating. So he hasn't had an enormous impact on me, and his books also. His books are just treasures. My way of thinking, and I think they've influenced our style of writing to some extent too. A lot of times I think Rigardi's standing over us going, put that word there.
Go there.
So he's had an enormous impact on us.
So in a way, it almost sounds like the martial art maxim of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So one of the things that you mentioned is that the Golden Dawn, as you knew it, did not have any form of living order, right? Or succession at the time, right? And that's why y'all got involved in OTO, because it was a living order and y'all could find it, and y'all knew of people who were members of it, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's this idea, there's this, chain of succession, right? Some sort of lineage. And then y'all found Rigardi, and that there was, through Rigardi, there was some form of living Golden Dawn. So when it comes to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, how important is lineage really, and how important is succession? And then how does the lineage through Israel Rigardi work?
Want to take that one?
Well, the way I feel anyway is that Rigardi consecrated our neophyte hall, and he consecrated our vault. And he initiated the first two adepts. So as far as I'm concerned, our whole order revolves around Rigardi. I don't consider us lineage through the Golden Dawn. I consider us lineage through Rigardi. Israel Rigardi is who we. If I was to claim lineage, that's the way I would claim it, through Israel Rigardi. He was the one that actually had the initiatory. We had initiatory rights. We never had institutional. We weren't given a contract from McGregor Mathers. We were given an initiation from Israel Rigardi. So we had initiatory rights, but not institutional.
When all is said and done, I like I was talking about Rigardi before. It had such a profound impact on me that that the initiation, the lineage through Rigardi is what's important to me. I mean, you can have people with a piece of paper, like there's so many different people out there all over the internet, all over everywhere, saying, I have this piece of paper saying I can do this. And that's fine, but I would much, much rather have the experience that I had through meeting Israel Rigardi. That to me is a true initiatory experience. Even if he didn't initiate me personally, I was initiated by people that he initiated. So there's that.
You got to sit on his lap.
Well, I did do that. but yeah, I mean, that paper is fine, but in the end, paper is just paper. It's paper is not magic. It's that graceful synchronicity that brought us to Rigardi. That's the magic. That to me is the real initiation, and our order has that. And I think that anybody out there, any order that has something similar like that, God bless them. It's better than a dusty old piece of paper any day of the week.
So then, kind of building off of that, there's this concept in the world of Golden Dawn, that we've kind of mentioned, the self-initiation. Where does self-initiation fall into this wider family of the initiatic chain and all that?
We created that. We created that because one of the things I promised Rigardi was that I would protect the Golden Dawn name as long as I lived anyway, and that anybody that showed interest and that they wanted to do the work, then we would make it available for them. So what we have done as perfect strangers, or giving people the rights to use and do the Golden Dawn work. I have it actually legally. If I wanted to, I have it. What do you call it?
Are you talking about the trademark?
Yeah, I have it legally trademarked and all that good stuff. And if I wanted to, I could stop anybody from using it, but I don't. I encourage them, because my promise was to Rigardi that I would hold the Golden Dawn name and make sure that everybody had a chance to use it and use the studies. So we developed another book called the Self-Initiation Book. So in the process of doing all this and all this promising, we put a self-initiation book together so that even the people on the outskirts of life that had no chance of ever meeting a Golden Dawn group could buy this book and self-initiate themselves. And that's basically the reason for the self-initiation book. We did that on purpose so that I get just so sick and tired of people saying, oh, we are the true Golden Dawn. We are this, we are that. This way, anybody could initiate themselves and they could be a Golden Dawn person. It's that simple.
And that was one thing that Rigardi was really a champion of too. I mean, he totally believed that a person could initiate themselves.
Yeah. He was the one that helped me in a sense to or inspired me to go along with the self-initiation book, because he wanted everybody to have a chance to do the Golden Dawn work. It belongs to nobody. It belongs to everybody. Everybody that wants to do the work. Nobody owns it. Anyway.
And what you're doing with self-initiation, if you're working through the rituals and the knowledge lectures, there are disadvantages, of course, to doing it solo, because like we were saying before, it helps to have a group of people around you doing the same thing. You can supplement that nowadays with people that you trust on the internet doing the same thing, who can maybe guide you along the way. So it is a kind of a loose group or temple. But basically what we're doing, you're doing the same exercises, the same meditations, learning the same knowledge. You're trying to become that clear vessel to allow that connection with the higher self, and that's what it's all about. So there's nothing stopping anybody in today's world from doing that on their own, basically.
Did that help?
It does. And I was actually about to ask, what are the different challenges and stuff related to self-initiation, but y'all got that already, so that's perfect.
We're Pishik.
Yeah. Pishik, yeah. So kind of going on a little bit of a tangent then, can somebody or a group of folks who have self-initiated get together and start a temple, just say, hey, we have performed the self-initiation curriculum?
People have formed groups that way, but they would be their own self-initiation Golden Dawn group. They wouldn't be a part of us because
we initiate everybody that comes into the group.
Because for each group we like to have a line of succession with our own personal energy. And I think that's true of just about any group that's out there. It's like they can be doing perfectly good work and that's fine. And sometimes it's better if they're doing their own work and they're not not dependent on us totally, if they're doing perfectly fine work. I forgot what I went off on a tangent. I forgot what I was going to say.
It was a tangent.
Yeah, it was a tangent. I'm sorry. But run that question by me again, and maybe I'll think of it. Maybe I'll think of what I was saying.
Okay, so but then they are valid. Y'all just don't have like a sense of reciprocity with them.
Well, they're if they're doing the work properly, then they're valid. But that's not saying they're doing the work properly.
Well, it's hard to tell if they're totally doing the work the same way that we would be doing it. And one of the things, they're different.
I had a good teacher.
Because we are working in the process of inner alchemy, we want to be certain that everybody that's attached to our egregore has the same exact experience, and you can't really do that with an outside group. That you don't actually know what they're actually doing. I mean, they can tell you, but there can be miscommunication and everything. But so we generally don't have any reciprocity, but it hasn't really been an issue. If somebody's gone through a different group, they can come to our group and start over. They can possibly even get a little bit accelerated if they know the material and if they're stable. But we like everybody to go through these same exact experiences that we have, and there's no way of knowing if it's been done, in any other fashion.
Way, but in order to work within our group, we'd like everybody to start at the beginning so that they get in touch with our egregore, the egregore that we're working with, so that they're all on the same page.
Yeah, being on the same page is important. And it's not a value judgment. It's just that we like to know that everybody's gone through the exact same experience and touched base with our particular egregore.
They don't have to.
Yeah, they can do their own thing. We're cool with that.
So I remember kind of switching gears a little bit. I remember being a young man just interested in learning more about esoteric topics. I remember going to the bookstore, and you would have, again, this was the early 90s. So you would have the Golden Dawn with Israel Rigardi, and then you would have a whole bunch of Aleister Crowley material. It's hard to do any research into the Golden Dawn without mention of Aleister Crowley and dilemma. Do you have any opinions on this close association in the mind of many esoteric students between the two systems?
There's none. There's none. There's no similarity. Aleister Crowley had a different system completely. He was doing Thelema. Thelema and Rosicrucianism are two different, like apples and oranges. I mean, it's just two different methods of doing magic. There's nothing wrong with Thelema. You do Thelema and you do it, and you stick with Thelema, you're doing it right. If you mix it with Golden Dawn and you're doing Golden Dawn and you mix it with Thelema, then you're screwing it up. You're screwing Thelema up.
That was one thing that Rigardi and Grady
both I had Grady here many a time doing banishings at my table because I got a OTO symbol on it. That didn't mean anything. He still laughed. We still laugh.
But they each thought that it was hard to mix the two currents.
Yeah, both of them agreed on one thing, that you should not mix the current. Remember I said about having to go and have an egregore.
Mm-hmm.
The egregore we work with is different than the egregore that Thelema works with, and so forth. And it's that simple.
If it's I don't know, we like to stay with the tradition, and if you mix traditions, sometimes you lose the thread of each, and I don't think you do either one justice.
You don't do right then.
Yeah.
Screw it up.
If we respect their traditions, I think that we keep them in their own corners, their own purities at that point. We just have a hard time mixing things. We like to keep things.
Understand, there's nothing wrong with Thelema.
No.
If they do Thelema, fine. If they do Golden Dawn, that's fine. Just don't mix it. That's all.
Both traditions are meant to go through a different material and learn it in a different way. And I don't think you do either one justice if you mix them together. And part of the reason is they do have similarities, but they do have differences too. And it's hard to see the differences if they're mixed together. Then you don't see the difference.
Why do y'all think that there is, obviously it's not super widespread because OTO tends to be OTO and Golden Dawn tends to be Golden Dawn, but why do y'all think that there tends to be this ecumenical tendency for people to try and mishmash the two, even though that doesn't really serve either cause very well. It seems like people kind of want to mix things together, but it's not really clear as to why they want to do that.
I think it's human nature. They can't help themselves.
People want everything.
It's just part of human nature. That's one thing you don't have to worry about. Us two, we in our groups, we follow and we do it traditionally the way it was laid out, and we do it that way in the traditional manner, and that's it.
And also Crowley pretty much, he really liked to be a showman. He liked to have people talk about him. He liked to be gossiped about, and so people gossiped about him quite a bit. So he was successful in getting people to talk about him and getting this reputation as the wickedest man in the world, which he wasn't, let's face it. I mean, there was a lot more wicked people than that, my God. But he liked the fame, the infamy, and and a lot of what he did also, he picked up some Golden Dawn material and published it and claimed it as his own, so as he sometimes did. So so that's why, and then of course Rigardi being his secretary for many years, and Rigardi, writing the Golden Dawn book, and then he wrote some introduction. He was Rigardi's secretary. He wrote some introductions for Crowley's books. So in people's minds, the two are connected, in which they were connected. But Rigardi would tell you that, again, the systems are different. So, but people don't know it, just from what's out there.
So it's really more just of a personal connection as
Exactly.
opposed to an institutional sort of connection. So, we've kind of touched on, hey, Thelema and Rosicrucianism, OTO and GD, not super compatible. Right, both valid, but just not compatible. Are there other esoteric traditions that you find are kind of compatible with Golden Dawn and tend to complement it?
Well, different Rosicrucian organizations, Martinism's compatible. In fact, Chick and I are both Martinists as well, and we find, well, of course, Martinism is more mysticism than magic. And we find that the two they complement each other in that way, because Golden Dawn is, a lot of times we like to complicate things. Golden Dawn magicians, like, if it's not complicated enough, we'll find more ways to complicate it. Believe me, we'll work hard at it. We'll work hard at making a 10-minute ritual into 2 hours, because that's what we like to do. But in Martinism, being a mystical path, it's much more laid back. It tends to simplify things. Things are quiet. It's a lot of quieting the mind and lessening the symbol so that you can quiet the mind. So in a lot of ways, it's like those two pillars that we were talking about before, the two opposite pillars, and then the middle path. So we find that Martinism is very restful, and it's a nice contemplative practice, which it complements our schizophrenic Golden Dawn practice. So we like Martinism.
And eloquent.
I guess we're starting to get into the tail end of the questions here. Do you have a favorite author that you enjoy reading their works of, or a mentor? Obviously Israel Rigardi, but are there others out there that you feel have had a significant influence upon your own work?
No, I'm sure it's Grady for you. Although he wasn't an author.
Yeah. Author?
Author or mentor?
I would say probably the more influence I had on me in my life, actually, has been Bob Gilbert.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good friend. He's a good friend and an influence. Very knowledgeable. And a quirky sense of humor.
Extremely knowledgeable. And when he tells me something, I listen.
And I have to, and of course, Israel Rigardi for me, Dion Fortune, a smattering of the other people. But of course, my mentor has been Chicky. He's been my mentor for a lot of this. I wouldn't be anywhere without Chick. He again, I met him with one of those graceful synchronicities that I was talking about that brought me to Chick and brought me to Rigardi. And so Chick's my number one mentor, really.
Oh, that's nice.
It's true.
The one of the things that we have listed here as well is, a lot of Masons are noticing a resurgence in this idea of recapturing esotericism within Freemasonry. And it seems that, for better or worse, and, obviously I tend to be biased for better, Masonry is getting a little weirder. And there's more interest among it, especially among younger people and that kind of thing. The question that I had is, are y'all seeing something similar with Golden Dawn? Do y'all see, is there a similar rising interest, or is that not paralleling what's happening in Masonry?
No, I see influence in Masonry. I see the younger Masons are being influenced esoterically by some of the teachings, and especially like I said, I was in charge of the Rosicrucians here in Florida. And of course, we all have, in order to be a Rosicrucian, you have to be a Master Mason. So I get to see a lot of the younger Master Masons coming into Rosicrucian studies. And it's a different way of approaching Masonry. And they don't quite understand it when they first get involved. They're a little confused. They think it's supposed to be a certain way. And then all of a sudden they find out, well, no, it doesn't really work that way. It's completely different. And they're learning and they're understanding and they're wanting to learn and they're wanting to understand. And it makes me feel good to think that they're opening their minds and not just staying closed in one direction and following Masonic teachings the way, and the way they were and the way they are and the way they're going to be. They're willing to take a look around the corner and compare and see other things as well. So I find that very interesting.
I think, like Chick was saying, I see a lot of young men joining Masonry to get to the esoteric, and I see I know a couple of lodges that are more esoteric than some of the ones that I'm familiar with. So there's definitely a push in Masonry to bring out the esoteric, and that's as it should be. My goodness, they're working with esoteric symbolism and all of these, the richness that is there. And it's exciting to see young Masons taking back their esoteric origins. There's also a resurgence in the Golden Dawn as well. I mean, there's been a lot of books out there lately that have been, a lot more published materials been coming out, original published material, a lot more people. There's a lot more Golden Dawn magicians than there ever was in the Victorian era. So many people working, and not just our group, all different Golden Dawn groups and solo practitioners as well, and people taking the teachings and taking what fits their model with the teachings, and it really is a resurgence. So there's different. Of course, the internet's not the best thing, but it can be a good thing if the internet is moderated with intelligent people and not just going into flame wars and stuff like that. There are good Golden Dawn groups out there where you can learn good information, and it's there's a lot more access to knowledge out there today, which is a good thing, and that's. So there is a definite resurgence, and it's being powered by by people who are hungry for the knowledge and other people who want to help people who are hungry for the knowledge.
So with all this access to information that's available online and this kind of increased platform to jump into esotericism, what would you tell somebody that says, hey, I'm super interested in the Western esoteric tradition, I want to jump into the pool? You know, what would y'all's personal advice be to somebody who is seeking to begin this journey?
Wear a life raft.
Read some really good books first. The books that people agree are good books. Read a lot of Rigardi.
So they don't drown.
I would say that reading is the first requirement, because if you can't read, you're not going to get anywhere in the esoteric groups, because it's a lot of knowledge. And one of the things that the Golden Dawn teaches is we can do it no more than guide you, along the path. So, and we can guide you to good books and good knowledge material and good exercises. Sunday. So that would be the first prerequisite, is to read the good books that are out there. We have a few beginners level books, the Essential Golden Dawn, and our latest one, Golden Dawn Magic, is a little bit more practical stuff in there, but there's beginning exercises, beginning meditations, so that it's done in a step-by-step way, so that people don't get overwhelmed. So although people want to jump in the deep end of the pool, it's best to wade in slowly, so that you know that this is what you really want and that you're not going to drown. So that's my advice. Just, and also listen to people who are, you can find good material on the internet if you have discrimination. Ask around, ask who's, who are the people out there who are helpful and who has good information. But don't stay on the internet, because eventually it will devolve into a flame war. So there's that. Just search out good people and good books.
Don't disagree with that.
So would you say that there's any pitfalls other than the online flame wars that students should be wary of as they progress in their journey?
Yeah, there's a big one that Rigardi was always warning against, and that's something. It's inflaming the ego, and that is a big one. That is a big one for magicians or any. Actually, it happens in religions as well. Anytime that you're dealing with meditation or prayer or invocation or especially magic in general. When you're opening your mind, when you're trying to clear the mind, when you're trying to become a more pure vessel, and you will be making periodic drips of contact with the higher self or the higher powers, you'll get insights. The thing is not to consider that you are the Messiah at that point, or that you're getting this knowledge so that you can spread it to everyone. And that's a big one. It's Rigardi called it the infantile megalomania, because and what happens is when we're little kids, we think that the universe revolves around us, so that when we cry, there are adults who will get us what we need, and so this is, the infantile, the ego thinking that it's the center of the universe. And as we get older, this reality sets in, and we're like, oh, we're not the center of the universe. But when you're teaching your mind how to open these facilities, these psychic latent abilities for awareness, for higher awareness, sometimes what that results in is the infantile the mega ego will rear again and say, I am the most important thing in the universe. And that's really, you really have to fight that. And a lot of times, if you're on the right path, we find that the powers that be, the divine, will say, oh, you think you're the center of the universe? Well, here's a kick in the pants. And that happens quite often.
by the way, this infantile megalomania that you were describing, the best description I've ever heard of that is mage-itis. So
mage-itis.
Yeah, mage-itis.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So
it's easier to remember.
So what are the best available resources that you can recommend for somebody that wants, so they're kind of a three-parter, right? The best available resources for somebody that just wants to learn about Golden Dawn in general, the best available resources for somebody that wants to learn how to study Golden Dawn on their own, and then the best available resources for somebody that wants to study Golden Dawn in a group setting.
Self-initiation into Golden Dawn.
Okay.
For the solo practitioner.
For the solo, yeah.
And also,
it's got everything in it.
But also our recent book on Golden Dawn magic is kind of made for the practitioner, the self-practitioner as well. That's
but the other one's the better.
Yeah.
Self-initiation.
And for someone just wanting to learn about the system before they, just wanting to decide, well, is this something I really even want to stick my toe in or not, then the Essential Golden Dawn is the best book for that, as far as it'll tell you the origin of the Golden Dawn, what influences, what ancient influences went into it, the Hermeticism, what's Hermeticism about, what's Hermetic science, all the different strands of wisdom that went into the Golden Dawn. And then it'll go through briefly the history of the Golden Dawn and the order, the people who founded it and different personalities. And then it goes into the different aspects of Golden Dawn work. What's briefly, of course, it's a brief introduction, but it kind of gives you the whole kit and caboodle in a nutshell. So that's good for that. And if you to join a group, basically that's one area where you have to look online on the internet for
Keep your fingers crossed.
Keep your fingers crossed. Talk to people. One of the things that Don Craig always used to like to say was ask a lot of questions and be skeptical. That wasn't exactly his saying, but I can't think of it right now. But question authority. Ask questions. Question authority.
Yeah.
And then if it feels right, and if it feels solid, then I'm sure doors will open, like you were saying before. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Fantastic, thank you. And that's really the end of the questions that we have. At this point, is there anything that you would like to mention that you're working on, or that you would like the people who watch this or listen to it to be aware of?
The only thing I like to mention is our shop that we have on the internet. I make all the implements that are necessary for people to do the magic, the Golden Dawn, all the wands and all the implements that are necessary. They might want to look the shop up. It's quite interesting. And
that would be goldendawnshop.com. Shameless plug.
We encourage shameless plugs. That's what this segment is here for.
Okay. We're also working. We've got books in the pipeline. Our next project is a big one. It's going to be a book of prayers and invocations for magicians. It's going to be a big book. It's going to cover all different kind of spiritual paths. It's going to be exhaustive, and it's probably going to be a doorstop in its own right. But it's going to be made with magicians in mind. So particularly prayers and invocations for practicing magicians. But there's also going to be all different, like I said, all different traditions are going to be covered. It's not going to be Llewellyn's complete book, because I don't think you can have a complete book of prayers and invocations. It might be Llewellyn's big book of prayers and invocations, but that's in the future. It would be bragging for something that would not happen as a complete book. It'll be a big book. Watch for that in the future.
All right, and And I know that sometimes you also do lectures and talks. Gabriel and I last weekend got to
Yes.
attend, and two fantastic presentations on the Rosicrucian vault and the color attributes of the tarot.
And my voice was gone.
He was losing his voice. He got it back though.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yes, we'll be doing.
I was having trouble that day.
We're going to be doing more of those in the future. In fact,
Yeah.
let's see.
I like to
August,
start a class of a sort.
Well, it's going to be October. We'll be doing another one of those public Zoom lectures, and we haven't got the total. I'm not sure what lectures we're going to be doing. I know. I think the one I want to be doing is the one on Westgate's Enochian tablets, which we wrote a book on. I love doing that lecture because I'm a geek, and it's full of geeky stuff. So
That's okay. We're all geeks here.
okay, good. So I'm in good company. So we'll be doing. Yeah, we're still figuring out what one Chick wants to do. We haven't nailed that one down, but yeah, we'll be doing another one of those in October, and we'll be letting you know when that'll be. What date that will be.
Excellent. All right, so we're going to wrap up with the quote of the week, and this one I actually took from Israel Rigardi's writings. He said, "Mysticism, magic, and yoga is the means, therefore, to a new universal life, richer, greater, and more full of resource than ever before, as free as sunlight, as gracious as the unfolding of a rose. It is for man and woman to take."
That's beautiful.
Right.
Amen to that.
So, folks, if you want to learn more about our podcast or lodge, you can visit us at www.fortworth148.org. Our Facebook handle is at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook. Our email is info148@fortworth148.org. And while MasoniCon 2020 had to be canceled due to the virus, we'll be keeping everybody posted about MasoniCon 2021 on TexasMasonicon.com. And so y'all have mentioned that your website address is goldendawnshop.com. Is there any other contact info that y'all want to drop? Or
well, our order website is hermeticgoldendawn.org. It's in the middle of reconstruction because it's quite old and rickety. But no, we've done the shop. But yeah, our order, there's a lot of good material on our order website too. It's just, it looks a little old and dated, and we're in the process of updating that, hopefully in the near future.
All right, well, very cool. Thank you for the conversation and sticking with us for the past couple of hours. So this is Billy Hamilton signing off.
This is Gabe Jagush signing off.
This is Evve Kuykendall signing off.
This is Chick Cicero signing off.
And this is Tabatha Circero signing off.